welcome back to you on the slab. And of course, we are back with the full gang. The boys are back together. And of course, we've got our unofficial fourth member with us as well. Gentlemen, why do we do horror on Friday?
Why not?
I think I just answered my own question there, didn't I?
I think you did.
I'll tell you why.
Go on, Ian.
Why. Because Friday night is
Horror night.
Oh, thank you. Thanks, Ian. At least someone was able to bail me out of that one there, you know what I mean?
Well, you answered your own question before you even asked it.
Fucking soulless giggle man there is in great form tonight, isn't he?
fetch a bale of hay, fetch a
Well,
hay.
you know that's not going to be good when I'm starting off in this kind of humour in the intro.
No.
Somebody's going to get ragged.
Right, so we thought we'd do this fun little episode anyway, and we're going to talk about the latest season of Stranger Things, which we finally all got around to watching.
Sorry, lads.
Yeah,
That's my bad. That's my bad.
that was the slow poke, you know yourself.
About goddamn time.
Yeah. So,
Can't give you about 350.
I mean, Jesus, lads, as a, you know, in a nutshell, what did you think of it? Just one word, even.
Hulk Hogan t-shirts are awesome.
Yeah, okay, that's more than one word, but okay.
Epic.
Ted?
Yeah.
Quality.
I have one word. Metallica.
Okay, I don't think you're grasping the concept of tonight's show, but yeah, okay, Metallica, that's great. That works.
No, I absolutely have the concept of the whole show. I just don't want to give anything away too quickly. Jesus H. Christ, this was probably, it's definitely, it's one of the most, right, if we're looking at the season as a whole, obviously we were waiting, 2 years on it, Ted? Is that right?
Yeah, it was about 2 years.
Yeah.
This
We were
last
waiting
one,
2
yeah.
years. So the build-up, I mean, like, they put us through lockdown and everything and didn't even give it to us during lockdown.
What was
They did
it? Comic-Con last year it dropped, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
They dropped the first trailer and then they dropped more during lockdown, the cunts.
yeah. So it was one of those things, but I swear to God, like, once I saw the first, let's talk about, you know, Carl's favorite word, atmosphere. We always talk about atmosphere. And Greg, I had mentioned this to you privately, actually. I think I mentioned it to you as well, Carl. I thought this one you know the way each season almost has a different feel to it?
Yeah.
Like, some of it reminds you of Stephen King, some of it reminds you has John Carpenter vibes, blah blah blah. This one absolutely had Wes Craven, Nightmare on Elm Street vibes.
Oh, absolutely.
100%.
And they mention it in the movie, or they mention it, sorry, in one of the episodes.
And of course,
Dustin brings it up.
Robert Englund's in it, isn't he?
Do you know what? That was one of the best things. I was sitting here watching it with Zoe, and it's the third episode when he comes into it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I was sitting here, right? So we were sitting here watching it, and so obviously they go into the prison, and he starts talking, and I turned around and said, "My God!" I said, "What?" And I said, "Do you know who that is?" And she said, "No." And I was like, "That's Robert Englund." "Who?" And I was like, "That's Freddy Krueger talking." And she's like, "No." Turns around, and I was like, "Holy Jesus!"
Mm-hmm.
And his makeup in it over his eyes was fucking phenomenal.
I have to say
Yeah.
that the whole production and presentation of this season was probably the best.
So
Oh yeah.
Oh, easy.
I found this one, the first two episodes, I was nearly giving up. To be honest, after the first two, I was like, oof. Didn't really fancy going an hour and a half every episode, or an hour to an hour and a half every episode. Then again, I watch movie after movie, but I was like, oh, an hour to an hour and a half. First two, and then I got to that one where is it episode 3 or 4, Dear Billy, the one where she goes up to the grave.
Four is
Four.
dearly, yeah.
Absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah,
That's
kicked
actually
off.
the episode, Greg, that had a lot of Nightmare on Elm Street vibes. You know, when, when they're in his fucking domain,
And it's
doors floating in the fucking distance. You know, it was just.
it had Nightmare. I think it's 5, the one with the baby,
Yeah.
where the baby's walking up the stairs upside down and everything.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
I absolutely love it.
What about here's one, Carl. We actually talked about doing a show a while back about and I'm sure we will do, but music and horror movies.
Yeah.
For you and me, two of our favorites are basically in this. It starts off obviously with Kate Bush,
Oh,
who you and me are both an absolutely massive fan of, and Running Up That Hill is one of in my opinion, one of the best songs ever. Anyway.
Sure, man. Like for me, like as you know, Kate Bush's debut album is my favorite album of all time.
Yeah.
So to hear her getting, a bit of a resurgence was fantastic.
And here's a question for you, right? Because we saw a lot of bite back. Because a lot of people that I kind of hang out with in everyday life, obviously work and stuff like that. They were telling me that there was a lot of bite back from old school fans going, "Oh yeah, you didn't like Kate Bush, and now all of a sudden you're a fan of the song." Blah blah blah.
Isn't it great that a whole generation are after discovering her?
Exactly, because not all of us are able to sit around and just go, "Hey, let me look at who the cool kids are of yesteryear." Do you know what I mean? That's how people discover shit.
Exactly.
And I'm sure Kate Bush was sitting back at home going, boom, boom, boom.
Money.
Number one hit over it, so yeah.
That song didn't make it to number one when she released it first, did it?
No.
But
it did well, but it didn't make number one. But now it did. Like
I seen one of the best memes I'd seen in a long time. It was Top Gun was back at number one in the cinema. Kate Bush was at number one on the charts, and he said, "Fuck it, let's do 1986 again."
You've sent that,
Yes.
honestly, didn't you?
Yeah.
I do think I seen a lot of that online of people saying, "Oh, all these people pretending they're Kate Bush fans." No, they're not pretending, lads. Like this is
Discovering her.
the fact is that some of the people watching this are only 15, 16. They can't have been Kate Bush fans. They weren't fucking alive when Kate Bush was there. All right, lads.
But then again, I wasn't alive when that song came out either. Were you, Ted?
No, exactly. Now I knew the song anyway. I knew it from Kate Bush, but there was also Placebo. Had done a cover of Running Up That Hill that was used in the Shawn Michaels Undertaker video package, which obviously brought attention to that song as well. And I think that was great, and I actually think they did a very good job of it. But what I liked was that this series is obviously set in the 1980s. That's the whole point. It's set in the 80s. It's set around 1980.
And that was 86 that year in particular, I think, that
yes,
they're talking about. Because that's, I mentioned at the start, the Hulk Hogan t-shirts. Because don't forget, in 1986, Hulkamania was literally...
It was running wild.
That was a great little touch as well, where they're in Russia and he has the yellow t-shirts on.
Yeah. But the film is set in 1986, which is in and around when that single from Kate Bush did come out.
Yeah.
I think that single, I think that might have come out in 1985, but it makes sense as to why it's one of the characters' favorite songs.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
it's, this is something that they fell in love with maybe a year, 6 months ago or whatever, and now it's their favorite song. It makes
it's still
sense.
very relevant.
I'm glad they didn't try and use some new song or something from the modern era and be like, oh, shoehorn it in. I'm glad that they stuck to this idea of use the songs that were popular back in the 1980s. Like the ones that were popular when these are meant to be getting filmed. It's a very nice touch.
I think the Duffer Brothers' attention to detail is brilliant. Like.
Oh yeah,
they left nothing go out of the way, did they?
No.
And I think that was half the reason it took 2 years to come out. They figured everything, every angle, every detail had to be perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think people appreciate that little touch, and I think that's why part of the reason why people enjoy it more so, as well as the storyline and the kids, and the fact that there's so much care brought to the project. As a story goes, I think this season is probably the second best season. I think season one's great. This might be better than season one, to be fair. It's hard to tell because it's still so fresh.
I'll be honest with you. I think it was the best. I think it was the best. But,
there's a recency bias there as well. Of it's only just come out, so wait a year, go back and watch them, and be like, actually no, maybe one's better. But it's up there with season one.
Can I just talk about one thing, Ted? And in fairness, I know that you're so fucking. We always say this about
particular.
Ted. He is Mr. Facts, Mr. Analytics, Mr. Facts, Mr. Everything. Do not come to a fucking gun show with a knife if you're going to debate Ted.
He's the Rain Man of our show.
Yeah.
Oh, without a shadow of a doubt. Ted, one thing that I thought about actually, and I haven't talked to you about it until now actually, was how good their character building is. Because obviously in last season, I can't remember his name. Remember the guy with the mullet? He was the pool boy. He got killed.
Billy.
Billy. he fucking like he was literally the heel throughout that whole series, and then literally had a babyface turn at the end, and it
For 5 or 10 minutes.
Still great though.
But that's what I'm saying. The actual little analytical details that, like the little details that the writers done in creating that redemption story. It was like, oh my god, we've hated you for so long because we've wanted to love you, and the reason I said the heel turn, because it's very like pro wrestling, isn't it?
Very.
It's like Stone Cold Steve Austin. Everyone wants to love him, but he's been an asshole, and as soon as you get that little double turn, now it's acceptable to go, yes, we cheer him. And that's exactly what it was like with Billy, and they seem to do that every year, and this year obviously was Eddie Munson.
So like Billy in the 3rd season, yes, he's a dick to his sister, right, and to the kids, right, even before he gets taken over by the aliens and stuff, right? Like, or well, I suppose they're not technically aliens, but before he gets taken over, he's a dick to them anyway. But you see, even when he's in the, like, he's still seen as the dick to the likes of the older kids as well, to them, you know, like to Steve in the basketball and stuff. And you get to see that, oh, hang on, he's actually not a dick to Steve, because you see him when they're in the basketball, he's like, don't hold your legs so so far apart, that's how you're getting caught by this move. He is teaching his other, like, the people on the team, he's telling Steve how to improve. He's a dick about the way he goes about it, but that's how he was raised. His dad was a dick to him. He obviously beats him, and then obviously he hates the mother and the stepsister because, you know, he lost his mother, and he's still just a teenager dealing with that. And then they have to move to this town that he doesn't like. So yeah, okay, he's a bit of an asshole about it, but like there's always a good guy in him. Even from that bit, you see it, like, but you don't notice it when you're watching it the first time. Well, actually, he's helping Steve there. You don't notice it because you're just like, what a dick! Like, he's so arrogant. And then when you see later on, you're like, oh, he was a really nice kid until he lost his mum, and then his dad fucking beat him, and then he sacrifices himself to save all of them. And you're like, maybe he's not that bad a guy. Yeah, okay, he's arrogant and everything, but this
he obviously had a lot of emotional issues going on.
Yeah, and like then you're talking
absolutely.
You're talking the 80s where boys weren't allowed to have that. You know, boys weren't allowed to be emotional.
I think most people are inherently good inside, so I mean, the goodness came out in the end.
This sounds like my last therapy session here.
Who better than to give you therapy than the On the Slab gang?
I am good.
I'll tell you what though. Even just moving away from Billy there for a minute. Have you ever seen a character come into a show that's already established, right, and become the ultimate fan favorite from episode 1?
Eddie.
That's Eddie Munson. Obviously, that's literally like, that's kind of when I started that question with Ted. That's actually where I was going with it. So thank you, Greg. That's actually fucking.
What's his name? Joseph something. I can't think of his name now.
But it was the same thing with Billy. Billy came in and automatically he was the bad guy. Eddie came in and you automatically loved him. You know, even though everyone kind of thought he was this weird kind of, and like, listen, we've all been through secondary school and stuff. Oh, they like Dungeons and Dragons, like they're the weird kids, like, and that is the way things were. And especially back in the 80s, you were, you know, it wasn't acceptable to like video games, it wasn't acceptable to like comics, it wasn't acceptable to like anything that wasn't, you know, whatever the current sport of the month was. Like, that's the way things were. And, you know, obviously we hear that Eddie's that bit older than all of them, so they're all like, oh, what a fucking weirdo, he's hanging out with the kids, and yeah, okay, he's a rocker, so obviously he gets abused for that, but then he's obviously into drugs in some way, and you see that he's had a hard life as well. You know, he hasn't had the easiest life, but unlike Billy, he wasn't a dick to everyone about it. He was a nice guy. He was a dick to the people who were dicks to him, which was like basically the whole school except the boys who came in to play Dungeons and Dragons. But he looked after the boys that played Dungeons and Dragons. Like, he was like their dad in school, you know what I mean?
He was the leader.
Yeah, but like he backed them up, and if someone said shit to them, he was like, what the fuck are you talking to my boys like that for? You know, I'm fucking, like, I'll take the beating, but don't give the boys shit, like, they're only kids.
His passion for his love of music and the way he acted, funnily enough, I had two people in work say to me, Eddie Munson reminded me of you. Carl can probably relate to that a little bit.
Yep.
Knowing the way I was in particular. Oh, fuck you, man. I'll fight you for your fuck your opinion. You know what I mean? So it's great because, like, as a metalhead, you can relate to it, but even the non-metalheads have related to it. And what's really cool about it, again, it's going back to the music thing. They brought a whole school, legion, whatever you want to call it, of kids now and people to appreciate kind of that Metallica song, which is blown up.
Well, that era of Metallica, yeah.
Jesus H. Christ. Like, that is probably one of, if not the most epic scene in a TV show.
In years.
Ted gratefully has it behind his head there.
Again, this was released. That album's released 1986, and I think it's released like, I think that album's released in like mid March or something, 1986. And when this is set is like 3 months later. So what you need to realize is that in that 3 months since the album's dropped, and they don't have the internet, so he can't go and look up the sheet music for it. He had to go and locate it, or learn it by ear.
By ear from your tape.
Yeah.
Eddie Munson has done that. That's how into this he was. Like, he had 3 months and he learned an entire I would say the best Metallica song ever. Musically the greatest Metallica song ever. Because of how many different sections they hit. Like, they brought in the orchestra and everything. They took their brand of music and expanded it into something that nobody else was thinking of doing. It's similar to, I'm not saying it's as good as, but it's similar to when Queen released Bohemian Rhapsody. There's a reason that's such a good song. It's because of the different levels that it hits.
Master of Puppets is better. Sorry, I'm just
But
saying.
that's what Master of Puppets is. In terms of Metallica songs, it hits these different levels. It's not just like one kind of type of music. It branches into 2 or 3 different bits, and that's why Metallica have that. Like, that's why it's still one of their biggest songs even today. And now it's obviously blown up even more because of Stranger Things and the greatest scene of him standing with the bats all flying at him, and it's so good.
It's brilliant. The great thing about that kind of music, though, is, lads, I mean, obviously myself, Greg, and Ian will be fans of that kind of music. Sorry, Ted, not Greg. Jesus.
Yeah, not me. I was like, I'll just nod and agree.
Greg was waiting for the Ed Sheeran fucking scene.
Absolutely, yeah. Breads all together, But
absolutely, got to support those fellow gingers.
But like, as you guys know, you've at the bands at that time were Metallica, Slayer, Anthrax, Testament, whatever, Maiden. Yeah. But like, we're talking about thrash metal, for point of reference here.
Sorry,
the great thing about this being played now, everybody in the world more or less knows who Metallica are, but they may not have heard all their songs. And this particular thing, I think this is brilliant. I don't care what old school fans think. I'm a fucking old school fan, and I think it's great because now kids are discovering Metallica, their back catalogue, and through that then they'll probably find Slayer, and they'll find Iron Maiden, and they'll find all that kind of stuff. And like,
Carl, it's actually, I know we're segueing here, but it is important, and there is a point to where I want to go with this. It's no different. I went to see the Chili Peppers there, obviously, a few weeks ago, and it ended up, I saw the Chili's, I saw Green Day, Guns N' Roses, and the Chili's one day after each, and the Chili's absolutely were the best.
I'd say
they put a serious show on there. And so good.
And guess what they did? People were expecting Fly Away on My Zephyr, all the new stuff. So you saw all the young lads going, with the new little handbags that the men wear nowadays, and all the,
It's a satchel.
Yeah.
Satchel. It's a satchel.
Listen, a satchel is what Arthur Morgan wore in Red Dead Redemption. These are pussies.
Sure.
But anyway, I digress. But their second last song, they played Sir Psycho Sexy.
Oh my, no way.
Their second last song they played,
Holy
Psycho
shit.
Sexy.
Greg,
and I was like,
Greg, Google or look at that song on YouTube later.
Greg, look at that song, 100%. But it was like, they played a lot of the old stuff, and it was like, this is what you get. It's like bands coming back and saying, by the way, we're not just Californication here, we got a fucking proper history here. And I suppose that's where I was going with the music thing. It's good now that you've got young people that can watch this stuff, and I think what the Duffy brothers have done, and what Stranger Things has done, is it's created a whole cultural shift almost. And it's not often that shows actually have the power to do that, but they've done it here.
and they've done it extremely well in terms of even from the first season. Like every season, they've seemed to bring something back to popularity.
Yeah. I think I think I like that kind of resurgence. That's the kind of resurgence I like. It's done with good stuff, good quality stuff. You know.
Yeah. But like as you said, Carl, like obviously Metallica at the time were one of the biggest ones, and then you have the likes of Slayer and stuff as well. But for non-metal fans, they don't really know who Slayer is.
Yeah.
Everyone knows who Metallica is. Whether they know a Metallica song or not, they knew the name Metallica. They knew it. Now people can put music to that band that knew the name but didn't know any Metallica songs. Now they can go, oh, that's Metallica. Yeah. And as you said, these younger kids who, you know, we're all a bit older, so like we've found the music we've liked, and we're kind of set to that. Like I don't know when the newest band I've listened to is. You know, I just listen to all the old shit, which is what, you know, your parents did. You were like, oh, I'm never going to be like that. Yeah, you are. Listen, you're eventually just going to fall back into the stuff you like. But that means that younger kids now won't be listening to Metallica until now, and they hear this, and then they hear Metallica, and they're like, well, let me look up some other people from that generation, and they're going to hear their Slayers, their Anthrax, their Panteras, things like that, you know. And it allows music to continue living on.
But you have to think about it, right? In terms of music and films and stuff from that time will die without new stuff referencing it.
Yeah,
exactly.
And it's as simple as that. It's 100%. Like certain movies will always carry on, right? Like the Jaws will always be phenomenon. Terminator, things like that. They're all getting on now. Halloween, things like that. They were made in the 70s, 80s, right? They're going to be things, but there's other brilliant movies that are falling through that people are forgetting, and shows like this are bringing them back. In terms of, alright, this time it's music. Do you know what I mean? But there's shows and films that are on now that are bringing it back. Like, I know it's not horror, but I went to the Minions with the kids the other day, right? And in that, they go and see Jaws in the cinema. Right? Now, you don't see the screen, but you can hear the girl screaming. You know, obviously it's at the start. When the girl gets eaten and she's getting shifted side to side, you can hear it in the background. And you'll hear the music. So kids will now reference Jaws with that music from a kid's film. So it's going to keep it alive for the next generation, right? And it's great when it does that.
I love that I have a little pop vinyl of Jaws. And when he gets it in his hand, he goes, he's never seen the film here.
That actually might be the most known theme song to anything. That's probably more famous than Star Wars or anything.
Easily.
I would say that and Psycho.
Yeah, possibly.
Yeah.
You know the bit.
I think people would know Jaws more than Psycho though.
I think Jaws is known so much because it's so easy to play. Like
two keys on a piano.
You can stick anybody on a piano and they can play Jaws. Do you know what I mean? Like that's how simple it was. And I think that always made a point of like how simplicity is great, and that's what Jaws was. Jaws was a very simple film.
Yeah.
And amazing.
Simple and effective.
But that's what I mean. The simplicity of it is what made it amazing.
While we're here, why don't you guys announce what you know? Our sister, brother show, whatever you want to call it. Our partner show.
You would be referring to the long-awaited rematch from Halloween of last year, when you took on my favourite horror film in Nightmare on Elm Street that ended in a decisive draw.
Hotly contested draw.
Yeah. Screw job. Yeah, Cal got screwed over, I know. Sorry, Cal.
No, I know. Didn't. Just like you did out of your hairline. Come on.
Says the guy whose hairline's worse than Saudi Mayonnaise there. I know I'm going broad.
I've never heard of Saudi Mayonnaise. Sorry, I don't know who that is.
And you
want to
make it worse.
He's the guy who scored twice against Chelsea in the last 3 games.
I know, hang on now, Greg. And you'd want to make sure your words are soft and sweet because you might have to eat them later, you know.
So we are going to announce.
Later, well, we do the show, yeah.
They're gonna. We don't have an official date yet, but the two boys are going to be going 1-on-1 in a contested rematch, and we're going to take it to the ocean, and we're going to take it to Jaws.
Carl thinks that there's a bit of foul play going on here.
Shenanigans.
Well, I mean, I can always set up another one if Ian was to beat you in this one, and American Werewolf, if you really wanted to.
No, that's perfect as it is.
Well, you see, that's a
Second best werewolf movie. Just saying.
I will say this. Because it's your fucking favourite movie, it's actually even more difficult. Myself and Ted had this conversation today. I was like, it's actually more difficult. Ted, you know I've been battling with my picks, and I'm no further than I was a week ago.
But we're moving off the subject here. This isn't about recast. This is about the epic series of Stranger Things.
Well then let's get back on track. Let's talk about Vecna. What did you think of Vecna?
What a design.
The design.
What a design.
The design is brilliant, but the lead into how Vecna was created is brilliant as well. Like that is, you know, we've always known her as 11, right? We've always known she was 11. This is the one thing I did slightly dislike about this season, is that they retconned season 2 slightly in that 11 knew 5. I think it was number 5, which was a girl that could, you know, make illusions with her mind for the people around her. And that just doesn't seem to be the case anymore. In this new series, in like this series, that's no longer a thing because one kills all of the other guys or all the other children. So they've that's the one mistake that they kind of made in this. And I was always kind of hoping that they would bring back number 5 at some point, where it was like, oh, this is too difficult, 11 can't win, and then 5 would come back and help. But I do think it was very smart that they were like, oh, this guy who's number 1 is so powerful, but they're using a chip or something to stop him being able to use his powers. And then when she frees him, he goes fucking balls to the wall.
How fucking rough is that scene where she's like using the power to take it out of his neck, and then you can hear it rip out, and you're like, Jesus Christ.
And you know what? That was the moment. I'm not gonna lie here, because obviously certain people got it. Like my missus had got it before me.
I knew before.
But she didn't tell me, in fairness. But I had a feeling. I was like, he's dodgy. That's what it was. I was like, he's dodgy. And when I saw that, and he was like, oh, can you help me get out of here? I was like, yeah, he's absolutely dodgy, but I didn't get Vecna. And obviously the way they do it, the whole show is at the start they show her like being the bad guy, you know what I mean, and all the kids dead and stuff like that. You were like, oh my god, she's obviously mental. What's going on here? So the storytelling in that and the slow build in the storytelling is so worth the wait when you continue on with the show. It's like Greg said at the start, you were kind of getting a little bit bored 2 episodes in, but it's like one of those shows, isn't it? Stick with it, son. I'd
committed so much time to it over the years, that I had to finish, really.
And how happy are you on a scale of 1 to 10 that you did?
Oh, very. Like, it's an amazing show, and it will be ranked right up there among the very best.
As long as they don't fuck up this last season. This season is their last season. As long as they don't fuck it up.
Someone turned around and said to me, oh, the next season is going to be in the 90s. So I was like, but it can't really be the 90s because that's 1986. It's 2 years, I get it. They're going to be a little bit older. But, like, surely you could just go 2 years into, like, 1988 or even into 1989. Where
who knows what the story that needs? We don't know.
I think the issue at the moment is the kids have, because you're using kids, aged. You know, they're clearly not kids anymore. I think that's where the issue is, as why they might move into the 90s.
I think
they should have started recording then already, like a year ago when they had the chance.
See, the other thing is, you look at Finn Wolfhard's gone on and he's done the 2 hits in between this. He done Ghostbusters. I mean, they're all getting cast left, right, and centre now.
Yeah.
Sadie Sink went off and done the 3 Fear Streets.
Like, I understand why it is difficult for them to do that, but with the kids getting older, I can see why they might be like, well, let's push it. They might not, but if they do decide to push it and they're like, right, let's get into the early let's get it to the 90s, so they're 4 years older. Do you know what I mean? And now they're meant to be kind of in their 20s. Then the
ending means nothing because something was about to happen at the end anyway.
Well, it was just showing but then again, that could burn for ages before anything happens.
Yeah, like you know, I'm sure if they need to, they'll explain why that happens. They are very good at that. I don't think they will push forward that far into the 90s.
No.
I do think they'll stick with maybe 87 or 88 or something.
I think Finn Wolfhard definitely looks too old. Noah Schrapp kind of gets away with it a bit. Gaten looks like he's about 12.
Yeah.
And then Lucas, he could be 16, 17 at this stage.
Maybe Bobby Brown is like one of those as well, where you're just kind of like.
Yeah, see, when they shave her bald, it's very hard. She just looks like.
She won't do it again now. She said.
She's not going to do the final season.
No, she's not going to shave herself bald.
Oh.
Yeah.
I suppose she's 18. She's 18 or 19 now as well.
Jesus. I was about to make a joke there, and then I didn't realise the joke. I said, "Don't give fucking Carl a heart attack like that." And then I was like, "Oh shit, should I know?" No, because like, obviously she's gonna do it. Yeah.
No, she'll finish out the season. But yeah, I can understand her being like, "No, I'm not shaving my head bald again." Like, if we want to go with me bald, you'll have to do a like
bald
or whatever. But I think for this series as well, like as we said, obviously Eddie Munson came in as a fan favourite from the start. But I think I've seen a lot of people, when there was that break between the first half of the series and the last 2 episodes, and we'd obviously seen Joe Keery's character Steve using the bat to like knock down all the bats that were coming at him, like the piece of wood with the nail in it. People were terrified that was the end of his character.
Yeah, I like him.
They sold that really well, didn't they?
Yeah, well, people were terrified because they'd made this new character in Eddie Munson, and they were like, "Oh shit, is this new character Eddie Munson being brought in because they're killing Steve?" And people were terrified that Steve was getting killed off in this series.
I'm so glad Steve didn't get killed off, and in fairness, it's such a great. That's another character, you know, that started off as a bit of a dimwit. Like he was almost like the dumb blonde.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
He was the jock.
In male version.
I'm the jock. I don't really have any brains, but yeah, you know, I'm popular.
And the dynamic between him and your one as well, where you're thinking, will they, won't they? And then obviously she didn't want to cheat, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But there was a little bit of.
But then
wasn't it his character that was supposed to be killed off, and the campaign had him stay in it?
No, that's people. But the series was already shot. People were terrified he was going to die off.
No, but after season 2, I think it was, or 3, they thought that he was supposed to be killed off. And there was a big campaign that went around to keep him in it.
Yeah, he said that, didn't he? He said it on Jimmy Fallon or something recently, I think.
Yeah.
One
That's madness. Yeah. It's the same thing. Like you see it in a few shows when a character comes in and the whole crew just love him. Like when Paul Rudd came into Friends, he was only supposed to be in it for a few episodes, and they were like, "Nah, fuck this."
He was part of the Forge then,
yeah.
But
like
Joe Keery's character, like Steve, it has that dynamic with his love interest, but then he has that dynamic with his best friend.
Yeah.
Well, his 2 best friends, because obviously Dustin's one of his best friends. And
it's gas, isn't it?
The other best friend is Maya Hawke. Like, it's so well done. You know, he becomes such a likable character, and you really felt, I don't want him to die, and you really felt he was going to, because you were like, they're replacing.
Especially when he was getting eaten that time by the bats.
Yeah, but then you were like, he's going to be the one that dies, because you knew somebody was dying by the end of this, series. You knew somebody had to be dying out of the main crew, and you were like, it's going to be him, and they're going to replace him with Eddie. And as much as everyone loved Eddie, they were like, Eddie doesn't fit the dynamic that we still need for Steve. Nobody wanted either of them to die, but I think they went with the right choice. I think
the right person died.
One, it had to be Eddie.
Did you notice the obviously Thing's sister, Joe Keery's love interest, Nancy, her relationship with Maya Hawke, that she doesn't leave her alone. Like, the two of them are kind of stuck together. Like, she's real clumsy and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, she doesn't leave her alone. A lot to do with, I was reading a lot of the fan theories that it's a lot to do with her character development, obviously losing her friend in the first season.
Yeah.
She doesn't want to leave her alone because she knows she'll get killed.
Yeah, and I seen a lot of people trying to make this thing happen of, you know, well, is Nancy going to be kind of falling in love with with Maya Hawke's character, and I'm like, no, that's not the case. Like,
Doesn't always happen, lads.
Yeah, 'cause there was a lot of gay innuendos, wasn't there? Then, like,
Yeah.
But, like,
With Will.
At the end, and then Will, yeah.
No, but they've already got, like, you know, Maya Hawke's character's already got a love interest, and it's obviously the girl from the band camp. You know, she's already got that love interest. But people are like convinced that Nancy is going to be. I think this series ends with Nancy and Steve getting back together, or unfortunately, I think it ends with like either one of them two dying, Nancy or Steve.
I think it'll be Steve.
They either end together, or
Yeah, he should die. To be honest with you, he's a fucking jabroni. So.
That's how funny was Argyle in this, my dudes.
Argyle was another good character, but you're just like.
It reminds me of my cousin Dean, who you both know really well. Like, imagine Dean like smoking weed and making pizzas like that, you know.
My dudes.
He's very good in it. I think they did that well with the.
By the way, one character I want to call out for being fucking awesome, and you know me, by the way, guys. Don't hold it against me, people that are listening here. I'm very bad with names, but your man that when he flies Winona Ryder over on the plane, he's fucking brilliant. What's your man's name?
Oh yeah, he's cool.
The Russian.
Oh,
Not the Russian, the other guy.
Mitch. No.
Mitch. It is Mitch, isn't it? When he
is it Mitch?
Wait, which one are you thinking of? Are you
the American one.
The guy,
American
the
one
American
talks
one, and he's like, "Oh, yeah, I'm a black belt," and we're like, "Have you ever fought anyone?" Like, "Yeah."
Murray. Murray is very good.
Well, a 12-year-old, but you know, he was feisty. And then, like, when they're on the plane and he gets into that scene where he actually fights your man and he realizes that he's actually a badass, he's like, "Oh my god, I'm good at this."
He was a good character, yeah.
He's always been a good character, though.
Fantastic character, and then when he puts the Russian accent on, hello,
Murray was brilliant. I actually thought he was going to die in the prison.
Yeah,
I thought he was going to die too, but no.
Dimitri
shout
was
out to
another
Hopper,
good.
by the way. The fucking shape that lad got himself into.
Yeah.
Seriously, I love how they make them fat jokes to him all the time. You used to be fat.
Yeah, but like your man Dimitri, who's obviously the Russian guard that
He's
helps Hopper out.
Dimitri
Everyone
will fly you.
Dimitri's the guard that's in there
Helps
with Hopper. That
Yeah.
helps Hopper escape.
What's your man? The little
Yuri.
toe rag.
Yuri.
Is the
Yuri.
No, but I think Dimitri was another great one because everyone thought Dimitri was going to be the same style of character as the one from the previous season. You know, the Russian guy they captured then.
Yeah.
That ends up kind of betraying them all the time. They thought that Dimitri was going to be like that and then he was going to end up dying. But obviously not the case, and everyone was like, yes, keep Dimitri in it, because he did a great job of being the, you know, yeah, I'll get you out, not because I like you or anything, but because you're going to pay me money, you know.
40k.
Yeah.
It was fantastic, and it was great method acting, I suppose, from Hopper as well, because it made sense. He's been literally in that prison getting starved, so that's why he's in shape. It's not because he's been working out like a motherfucker. You know what I mean?
I love Hopper. I think he's class.
He's deadly.
I love how dark he was in this one. Like when he's in the shed with the cop and he breaks his neck over the table and things. You're like, Jesus Christ! And like he gets out and you can tell he literally ran barefoot through the snow.
Yeah.
You're like, you're mad bastard. You're gonna do it. Like
the character development in this whole series
for everybody,
phenomenal. I mean, it's, you know, people talk about Breaking Bad and shows like that, and rightly so, you know, or even like Prison Break and all those shows, how you get to, you know, appreciate the characters and you grow up with the characters a little bit. This is once in a generation show, like, you know what I mean? Yeah. It's absolutely, yeah, it's tippy tops, and the fact that that you've so many different characters, so many different, and I know a lot of people kind of were annoyed. They were saying, "Oh, that whole Russia thing, like, it could have been shortened down. We didn't really need to know what was going on over there." I was like, no, that's bullshit.
100% needed to know.
Made sense.
Of course we did. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but like the whole, like, that's again, that's what was relevant at the time. You know, the Cold War kind of took place between those, like, it was happening in and around then as well. You know, like, it was still a big thing between America and Russia where they didn't trust each other, and so like it made perfect sense to have that as the thing.
They were like, yeah, because it was always that, oh, what technology have you got?
Yeah.
We want to know what you've got. Well, we don't know. We won't tell you until you tell us what you've got. You know, it was basically like two little fucking imbecile children. Really. You know what I mean? That's essentially, but very relevant, Ted. Exactly, very, very relevant.
They've been very smart with all of this. They've tied it to the timeline that it's meant to be in. No messing around and like taking stuff that, you know, shouldn't exist. Do you know what I mean? All the stuff that the kids have, and, you know, oh, we have a computer and it can connect to the internet, but it takes a while. Like, all of that makes sense back then. Do you know? It's very, very well done.
Yeah.
I think we've kind of gone on a bit now. Like, I think we've moved to the ending of it.
Yeah.
That speech that Dustin gives to Eddie's uncle. Who the fuck was cutting onions in this place?
Here, listen, I was cutting onions with the first bar of Master of Puppets. So this just kept going. But that bit, Greg, 100%. What a way to... And not just that. When Hopper sees 11.
On the rim. I left the door open 3 inches.
Oh.
I love how she walked in and she slams it and it just stops.
Yeah.
And
you're like...
thought it was, and he's like, nope. Oh, man. I'm actually getting emotional now thinking about it.
The reunions of the likes of 11 and Hopper and all of the kids.
Even with Joyce.
Yeah, Joyce and Hopper, like, everyone getting those reunions was really well done. But then again, as you say, Greg, at the end where you can see Eddie's dad, like, or Eddie's uncle, going around and he's putting up the posters and people are ripping them down and putting the horns and stuff because he's the bad guy, you know, and everyone believes he's the bad guy except the people who are there. But they're not allowed to tell the general public's not allowed to know about this big evil. Nobody's allowed to know. So everyone still thinks he's the bad guy and that he brought this down upon them and all that.
I loved it.
Or not Eddie, sorry.
Dustin.
Dustin takes the time and he goes over to Eddie's uncle and he's like, I don't want to hear about how bad my nephew was. And he's like, no, I knew your nephew, and, you know, he was there right at the last minute. And, you know, like, he gives and you can see how much it affects Dustin to say it as well, you know, because he's lost someone who he considered one of his best friends.
And his lip is quivering and everything, and you're like, here.
Yeah, and it's strange because Dustin's 2 best friends are no longer, like, obviously the best friend group was the 4 boys at the start, but Dustin's best friends are now Steve and Steve and Eddie.
The older boys.
The older lads are his 2 best friends. He's still friendly with the other boys, but he spends more time with the other 2. And, like, you can see how much it's affected him now. He's lost, you know, someone who's basically a father figure to him, because we see he doesn't have a dad throughout the series as well. So he kind of attaches to these older guys. Like, he does attach to them.
Dustin's the silent hero in this whole thing. Like, he's the comedic element throughout the season. Like, I seen a picture today and it's like, Dustin's a savage. So do you remember in the first season when he goes over to Mike's house and he's asking Mike there and he's like, no, and he's like, well, you're no fucking help. He just leaves. But
even how Eddie, like, throws him back, like, and won't let him out, and he's like, Eddie, and he's like screaming, going, hey.
Yeah.
And then he actually finds the willpower to get himself back in there, you know, just to find Eddie. Like,
he's
storytelling.
His knee when he falls down, and I was like, oh my god, I felt every bit of that.
Yeah.
The acting in this whole show as well, on top of story, is just 10 out of 10. Everybody involved. You imagine
that, like, the likes of the VMAs and maybe even some of the Emmys, that this will clean up.
It has to.
Yeah, but the guy who plays Lucas as well, you know, like, when he sees what's essentially his girlfriend, I know they've broken up for the time being at this.
They're pretty much back together.
Still loves her though.
Yeah, you know, like, he's spending all his time trying to get back with her, but he's also, you know, he's gone from being one of the nerdy kids to being on the basketball team, so he's now kind of one of the jocks, and he's battling that, and then he sees her and she's floating up in the air and he finally gets her down, but after someone smacked, like, after the jocks smashed the tape that he was going to use to put on her ears to
get her back,
like Kate Bush, to get her back, and he's now just terrified that he's after losing her, and he blames himself, and, like, his acting in it is phenomenal as well. Like.
How I even talking about that, like how good is the arm and leg breaking scenes in this?
Yeah, rough.
Oh, it's
Very
bad,
good.
isn't it?
It was very.
It was very apt for the tone of the whole series.
Yeah.
Very dark. The darkest series, obviously by a country mile.
Oh yeah.
Oh, easily, yeah.
And I'm expecting the next one to be darker, to be honest.
I think.
I don't think so. I don't see it being as dark as this.
I think it will. I think the idea of this is they've gotten progressively darker as the film or as the series has gone on, because the audience is meant to. If you were 16 when the first series came out, or 13 or 14 when the first series came out, you've now grown with this character, you know, and it's gotten that little bit darker and darker. And I know you're not a fan of the films and probably the books, Greg, but like it's very similar. Like Harry Potter was very similar in the sense that the first films and the first book are all very childish and like, oh, we're the heroes, and then it gets further and further on, and it's now like, oh, he's getting.
I know.
You know,
I have seen them.
I didn't say
I know.
I didn't like them.
No, I know, yeah, but that's what I mean. Like I've seen it get progressively darker the way through.
Yeah, but like even the books do that as well. It's like, you know, people start getting attacked, people start dying. Nobody's dying in the first one except the bad guy, you know, and like that's what happens. You know, you're letting your audience grow with you. So like the audience that started watching this when it first came out are now getting into their 17, like their 16, 17, 18-year-olds, and like obviously then the likes of us who were already older but still enjoyed it anyway. So it's getting darker. I think the next series will be quite dark, and it's going to be the last series. It might end on a very positive note, but I think we'll lose some of those main characters. I think we'll be losing somebody, at least one of those main characters, by the time we get to the end.
I'd say it'd be Joyce. Joyce will go. I'd say Lucas will go. And I wouldn't.
Joyce is gonna go to jail for shoplifting. That's what's gonna happen.
I'd say I wouldn't be surprised to see them.
We're gonna lose 11, to be honest with you.
Yeah, she'll go, and I wouldn't be surprised if Dustin goes as well.
Yeah.
I think they'll really clean house in this next season.
Do you know what? I think it's going to be a case of like, you know, because they're very, very into their 1980s style storytelling. Because there is elements of Steven Spielberg storytelling within it, you know what I mean, and a lot of the nostalgia within it is Steven Spielberg. Whereas, like, say for example, E.T. Like, E.T. may as well have been dead because it was like a death, the separation of the two. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think I have a feeling that it's going to be a case that 11 is like the hero and the person that nobody deserved. Do you know what I mean? It's going to be like nobody deserved her and she's gone. It's just going to be one. I just think the more I've been looking at it, it's so subtle. Even with her and Papa, like that was emotional too. Even, and it was like, shit. Is she gonna help him here because he's helped her now? He's helped her. Has he helped her for the right reasons, or it's because he fucking had no choice? You know, has he? You know, in his dying, fucking in his last moments, did he do it? Yeah, I mean, my opinion is he done it because he had to.
But is he dead?
There you go. That's another thing.
Again,
I just think there's too. I don't think you get out of this with 11 still in it. When it's
I think Greg's gone very obvious choices there. I think they're going to swerve us.
You think so?
Yeah, I think some of the characters you'll see die will be ones you're not expecting. So like Nancy could die, or
Steve.
No, see, I think Steve's a very obvious one that they'll be like, Steve will die as the hero, and then she'll stay with the boyfriend and things like
that. Can't be Argyle. Can't kill Argyle off, my man.
No, and again, I don't think he'd be one, but like, you know, it'd be like Nancy will die or Jonathan or something will die. I don't think it'll be Steve. I think Steve will be the one that doesn't die because he's too obvious a choice.
But if you're doing that, right, and you're going to leave the two lads, I'd say she'll have to make a choice between the two lads, and she'll go herself.
It'll either be she has to make a choice and she saves Steve, and then obviously Jonathan dies, or as you said, she just sacrifices herself. They both live, and then they never know which one she would have picked, sort of thing. Yeah. But they've already planted those seeds of her and Jonathan having, you know.
Well, you know what? Let's not overinflate it, right? Let's actually get to the end now, because we've got it where we want it to be. So I think now it's time where we actually come to the favorite part of the show, which is giving it the rating, which are slabs of meat. I'm gonna go first, and I'm gonna say 5. 100%. It's a 5 from me. Emphatic 5. Carl?
Yeah, definitely a 5 slabs of meat in relation to the series, and in relation to a series in general. Definitely 5 slabs of meat.
Greg?
It'll be a 5. The only thing I would say, for anything, it might have had too long of a runtime.
Yeah,
That'd be the only thing I could mark it down on, really. But I'd still be giving it a 5. It was a phenomenal show, phenomenal season.
Yeah.
Teddy?
Ted?
No, it's 5s all rounds, lads. I get what Greg's saying in the sense of maybe the runtimes are a bit long, but that's just because instead of making them shorter episodes and having more episodes, we got the longer episode. And I thought that last episode was 2 and a bit hours. Like, this is just a film. They should have split it into episodes. Nah, when I watched it, I was like, no, I'm glad they didn't. This was the right call. Yeah. This was the right call.
It's generally funny that I mentioned about the runtime, right? So the first couple episodes dragged in for me. They were good episodes, but they dragged in. That last one being 2.5 hours or 2:20 or whatever it was, it actually only felt like about an hour that I was watching it.
Yeah.
It just flew by because there's so much happening.
Yeah.
But it was, the last episode was absolutely phenomenal. That's one of the best endings to a season I've seen ever. No, I've never seen a TV show that had a 2.5 hour long season ending.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
Well,
look,
here we go. Perfect score for it from everyone all around there.
there hasn't been many of those given.
Oh, and if you haven't gathered, we like the show.
I didn't.
It's all right.
It was a bit shit, to be honest.
But I tell you what, I think if anyone's interested, tell us what you think in comments. Let us know what you think of it, and because we love to hear from you, and we'd like to know what you think of what we're saying. Are we right? Are we wrong? Do you agree? Disagree? It doesn't really matter. So we're going to end up the show tonight on a very positive note, on a very, very great series of Stranger Things. I have to say, lads, it was
Amazing, yeah.
Absolutely brilliant. But before we go, don't forget to follow the lads on Retrotainment and Retrotainment Recast. And of course, I'm part of that crew now at the moment. I'm getting my ass kicked left, right, and centre.
One of the crew.
Oh God.
Me too.
Absolutely.
And you'll be seeing the Dynamo as well a few more times in the near future.
But and of course,
Greg's loving it.
yeah, he is. Stick with us anyway for all your horror needs, because as we say, we do this because we love it. You know, it's.
We're at On The Slab on Twitter. We're at On The Slab on Instagram. Greg runs the Instagram. I run the Twitter. Cara runs the Facebook. Literally just type in On The Slab. We're everywhere. Our social media is growing, but we still need more support here on these here views. So do please like, subscribe, and just most importantly share our stuff and let us know what you think, because Carl puts a lot of work into these videos. Greg puts a lot of work into acquiring guests and stuff like that as well. So the only way we grow is by your support, and the support that we have got so far has been incredible, and we appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Like, my fee ain't cheap. Like, Greg's paying out top dollar to get me in. Like, the boys need just to, you know, get them some cash in so that they can keep affording me, you know?
You wouldn't believe the amount of hair product.
The
amount of hair product we had to get for Ted to that show tonight was unreal.
That's it. Like, I'm covering my head up at the moment because I'm trying to buy a new wig. You know what I mean? I'm literally,
go to the shop that Ted goes to.
I'm sick and tired of Greg giving me shit about
the Dynamo's dressing up as Eddie Munson for Halloween. It's about the only way you could look cool with a guitar.
Ooh.
With a guitar, yeah. With a guitar, that's fair. I'm glad you said that, with a guitar first. That wasn't. I won't take offense to that one.
Right, we'll leave it at that, folks. Listen, thanks again for joining us for a really enjoyable chat about a great series. Ted, as always, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me, lads.
As I said, you're one of the sofas now at this stage. You're your own slab as well. So we always love having you on. Thanks so much, and don't forget, as always, stay scared. Woo!